As soon as he was born, his dear mother abandoned the demon. Becoming an orphan, he desperately fought with local boys every day for scraps of food. Though his tongue was sharp and his words bitter, he had a master who loved him madly. Unlike the demon, that master patiently taught him step by step, like a pair of parallel yin and yang. Then the two of them wandered from place to place, relying only on one sword. When that master left the mortal world, he hung up his sword and went into deep seclusion. To marry, have children, and live in abundance with a gentle wife and 2 lovely children. As expected, the demon had no choice. He drew his sword to take revenge. One by one he gutted the sect leaders, tore the flesh from the bones, and threw them to the crows. And then the invisible chain that had held him for so long finally began to weaken. People never knew the true story. They only chewed over in their heads the rumors they themselves invented about him. The demon, a bloody madman, passed into the past and remained only a name in history. But strangely, death did not take him. The heavens tore him back. The demon's soul seized the body of Wutan, a worthless man without any combat skills. Where the demon will go after rebirth, no one knows. We'll have to watch to find out. Enjoy the review. Everything begins with a scene of desolation, corpses scattered everywhere, and witnesses shudder in horror. At that moment a group arrived. The fierce elder shouted that Zheng Tian was exhausted and must die. Xuanzhen, Zhang Guang, and Nangun Huang. Hearing this, Zheng Tian's face changed, and he said coldly, "Now only you remain." The elder immediately took a fighting stance, gripping his weapon, and shouted Amitabha. He rushed forward. Jun Tian also charged. Their faces were close, and in both eyes blazed a murderous desire. The elder suddenly received a strong blow from Zheng Tian, flew backward, and roared with rage. He quickly calmed down and shouted, "Cursed god demon!" He released all his power with the heavenly palm of the Buddhist sect, and directed it straight at Zheng Tian. He jumped over the elder's head. The elder cried out in alarm. "What?" Before the elder could recover, he lunged down and struck with all his might, shouting, "Then I will kill you first." The elder parried the sword strike and shouted to his comrades. At that moment everyone, 3 chaotically surrounded him, swords raining down on him in a barrage. Although he was surrounded, Zheng Tian held the upper hand, deftly dodging every attack. 2 elders instantly flared up, preparing to unleash a strike of plum blossom light and a thunderous volley. 2 elders shouted, "Die!" and immediately released 2 dazzling beams of light through Zheng Tian. He looked at him with a self-satisfied smile and said, "May you be reborn in paradise." But even before he could rejoice, Zheng Tian suddenly jumped back from his attack. Seeing this, the elder gasped in horror. "What?" Zheng Tian instantly leapt straight into the air to gain momentum. Zheng Tian Vor, with a crooked, grotesque smile, raised a bone and coldly said, "Next." By that time, Xuanzhen was already dead. 2 outside paled and trembled, shouting, "Monster!" Zhang Guang raised his sword, ready to fight to the death, but Nanggong Huang urgently shouted for him to retreat. Zhongguan tightened his grip, his face tensed, and he roared. At that moment, Wu Ching was the god demon Zheng Tian himself. To kill him, once someone drenched the central plains only with blood, so the masters from the 9 factions had to unite. But even so, facing an enemy without equal, their resolve nearly wavered. Zhang Tian glanced at him and mockingly said, "Old man, prepare your grave." Zhang Guang roared with rage. While he cultivated, the elder said, "Done. The grave is for you." Zhang Guang swiftly unfolded the plum blossom dance and forced Wu Chen to retreat. Wu Qing gripped the sword hilt tighter and said sternly, "Not yet." His eyes turned icy, his lips curled, "And I still cannot die." Immediately he executed the 5th move of the sword spirit Ma Black Dragon Slash, rose up, and Zhang Guang was cut beyond recognition, not even having time to react. The old man screamed from unbearable pain, howling in despair. No sooner had he killed Zhang Guang than countless murderous intentions rushed at him, and he froze, frowning. It was the deadly aura of the imperial art of the boundless sword. Seeing the aura converge, he gritted his teeth and cursed you, rat from the Nongong clan, a sword that cuts to the bone. But he froze as oppressive memories of the past surged again. Thinking about it, he smiled wildly, looked at Nanggong Huang and sneered mockingly. "It's just a scratch." The old man screamed in horror. "What?" Not giving him a second to react. His eyes flared with a bloody tint as he raised his sword. He gathered all his strength and struck Nanggong Huang with all his might. The elder recoiled in shock, but was still hit in the face. Eyes wide, teeth clenched in rage, he suddenly accelerated, instantly closed the distance and unleashed his technique. The old man groaned in pain and called Yung Tian a vile demonic bandit. Zheng Tian radiated an icy deadly aura, ignored the old man's words and moved forward. The fight began again. The two faced each other. Nanggong Huang gathered himself and continued throwing his techniques. He had not yet managed to counterattack when the old man seized the moment and jumped down from the height, Nanggong Huang's face tightened. His eyes shone with rage, and he lunged downward. The old man suddenly stabbed him in the back with a knife, and he roared in pain. Seeing this, the old man sneered and barked, "Die, bastard." He hissed that his life would end here, and Zheng Tian writhed in pain. Unconsciously, he recalled the carefree days of childhood, and felt that everything had changed. The old man gripped the sword tighter, suddenly said, "It's over," and this stunned him. His face was full of murderous intent, blood dripped from his lip, and he growled. He shouted, "I said, end this curse!" Then, without hesitation, he stabbed the sword through the old man again. The old man was struck, he spat blood, his eyes were bloodshot, and he hissed in pain. He panicked, the blade had clearly pierced his heart. How was he still alive? He stumbled. Demon God, his head falls. 9 great sects were wiped off the face of the earth, not a single living soul remained. Only emptiness. Suddenly Yung Tai Yan plunged into memories around him, echoed children's laughter and quarrelsome voices. While the child was still playing, suddenly someone's hand appeared. The child was lifted up. He looked intently and wondered if it was a moment between life and death. So much time has passed since I last saw the master's young face. Yes, from here began the journey to Zhonghu. It all started with battles for survival. I wandered everywhere, relying only on one sword, killing just like that. Does life still have any meaning? In his memory appeared a gentle woman who said, "I understand that feeling. I was like that too, pushing in the market, arguing about everything to survive. I considered everyone enemies, and constantly calming children about food and clothes was simply exhausting. But those moments were priceless when I lost my parents. I broke down, and the children gave me back the meaning to live." Zhang Tian pondered, "Once I wanted to live among everyone. But for someone like me, who only knows slaughter, you are the reason for my existence." I drew the sword again out of hatred, a rootless, wandering life. 15 years alone on the bloody path, my sword worn out, body covered in wounds. Immersed in thoughts, he suddenly heard a voice. "This is the tomb of the demon god Zhen Tian. What nonsense are you spouting barging in here? Can my martial art be sold for a few coins?" Hearing the noise, Zhen Tian squinted. What a commotion. Is this hell? He opened his eyes and saw a crowd before him. The woman said, "Your elder brother is unfortunate and cannot inherit the art. I will ask my son to take the Fireflower clan as manual." Zhen Tian stood bewildered. "What is happening? Shouldn't this be hell?" The boy objected indignantly. "No, our eldest brother is suitable. How can the art be given to an outsider?" The girl nearby noted, "You are not a direct descendant even if he does not learn it. This ancestral technique must belong to the Fireflower body clan." The man opposite said, "This is not the end yet. I have a proposal." Zhen Tian asked about the proposal. That man continued, "I heard those two are so poor they don't even have food, so I will put up the money. And you, Hua Wu Ching, stake all the art of the Fireflower body clan. We fight. The winner takes all." 2 children sprang up. "Our eldest cannot train because of his madness. Do you seriously think we will fall for this?" The man sneered mockingly. "Chatter, what a nuisance." When they called him Wu Qing, Zhen Tian became even more confused. "Stop, who is Hua Wu Ching?" He shouted decisively, "I am the demon god Zheng Tian." Dao Bao froze and repeated the name in shock, "Demon god Zheng Tian." Dao Bao curled his lip with a sneer and said, "If so, why don't you call yourself the king of the underworld?" Dao Cheng blushed with shame, and Su Yan nearby was no better. An arrogant female voice sounded, scolding him for something growing day by day. Fu Chuyun clicked her tongue and mockingly said that the future of the Fireflower body clan was decided. People from the Qinhua Merchant Guild left, leaving a promise. His silence meant he agreed to a duel at the Baiyun Pavilion on the 5th day of the 2nd month. Dao Bao warned, "This is a vow between 2 fighters," then began provoking, reminding the demon god Zheng Tian that he knows well the consequences of breaking an oath. When they left, the 3 who remained stood in shock. They could not believe that this decision was made for them. Su Yan said anxiously, "Remind him that he has never truly held a sword." He laughed contemptuously and said that for such a level, 1 stream of my inner strength is enough. Wu Xin tested his inner strength and instantly felt something strange. He asked himself in surprise where his energy had gone. He panicked and shouted, feeling that his body was empty and there was no strength left inside. He exploded with a scream of rage, cursing his weak body it couldn't even lift a sword. He continued to scream wildly, and the girl begged him to stop. The girl called out to him in despair, begging her brother to come to his senses, even though he was going mad. Tears welled up. Suyon squeezed his hand and said, "No one should endure this." Dao Zhen scolded the girl for calling him a stupid brother, but Suyan stubbornly refused to apologize. Suyon cried, saying it was all his fault because of him their parents died horribly. Having said this, the girl ran away, and Dao Zhen only sighed. Dao Zhen apologized for her, explained that she had lost control, and quietly left. Everyone dispersed, and only Wu Qin remained standing alone. He was ashamed that the children saw him as mad, and only bitterness remained in his soul. Wu Qing froze, looking at the large tombstone, and pondered thoughtfully. He remembered how he had beheaded the head of the Namgong family, and how it felt as if his heart was pierced. He glanced at his reflection in the stone, and thought that after avenging Manhwa and his brothers and sisters, he should find peace. He did not want this, desperately asking why he was still living in this body. His mind was in complete chaos, especially because the children were so similar to Shi and Yue. He grabbed his head in despair when suddenly a loud voice rang out, "Young master!" Ma Shi ran up and grumbled that the young master's weekly outings had nearly given him a heart attack. He asked who this boy was, but the boy only looked embarrassed, not understanding why he was being asked. Ma Shi sighed, thought he was losing his mind again, and asked for permission to explain everything. He explained that Hua Wu Ching was once a genius hunted by the righteous path, led them at 23, and this was already the 6th time he had to repeat this to him. He complained that he had repeated it 205 times. Wu Chen replied dryly, "So what?" He asked if he was really that heroic. Why was his Dantian now destroyed, and why did everyone consider him crazy? The story began 17 years ago, when two children stood opposite each other and swore never to use internal power. Dao Bao agreed at 9 o'clock. Both shouted, honestly and fairly. He said he didn't know who started, only that they fought without elders nearby. They silently acknowledged Dao Bao truly justified his reputation. Both eagerly entered the duel, relentlessly exchanging blows. Suddenly Dao Bao stopped admiring him and calling him a genius. This embarrassed Wu Chen. Suddenly he clenched internal power in his hand and spat, "You fool." He coughed again and again, blood spraying from his nose. He asked why Dao Bao used the 7 wounds fist, despite their oath not to use internal power. Dao Bao sneered contemptuously and coldly asked if Wu Qing still considered him a friend. He said that this was truly the strongest move of the Kongtong sect's 7 wounds fist. One strike can cruelly maim. He clenched his fist, gathering strength, and said that a single strike would confine that elder to bed. He delivered another blow, disdainfully challenging Wu Qing to defend. Feeling Ma Shi, he propped his chin, thinking that the consequences of 7 traumatic fist blows explained why people called him crazy. Understanding all that, he fiercely spat out, indignantly. He recalled the conditions of Dao Bao, and suspected that the one who destroyed him also dared to demand a duel. He asked Masha how they treated him then, and learned that it was the decision of the previous master. He asked, "And my father?" Masha replied, "Yes." The father decided only to scold him because Dao Bao was the son of the influential Qinghua trade guild. He coldly, contemptuously smiled at his father, because he only reprimanded the man who crippled his son. The polished plaques clearly reflected his face in the candlelight. He told how his illness exhausted his parents. The mother died first, and the father later because of debts. He said that only debts remained, 2 loyal servants, and a few martial arts masters. He introduced 2 children, Hua Daozhen and Hua Suyuan, as brother and sister. He remembered her crying. The girl sobbed, blaming him that because of him their parents died horribly. He understood that one illness destroyed their clan. That is why she was so furious. The sky was sprinkled with stars, but the light was still burning in his room. Suddenly he remembered once he was the demon god Zhentian, the very one who died 30 years ago. Now I have been reborn in the body of Hua Wu Ching, a madman with a broken Dantian. He thought the killers were dead, and his past no longer tied him to anything. 2 children wrote to him, "Get well soon." He had to prepare for a duel with Dao Bao on the 5th day of the next month. He calculated that before the fight he at least needed to return to the initial level. He stubbornly repeated to himself that this body naturally has extraordinary combat talent. Seeing the energy condense insanely fast, he thought he no longer needed to feel the life key. While he was cultivating, a shooting star suddenly streaked across the sky. 3 burst in Huang Feng, Bo Xin, and Ma Shi, and Huang Feng loudly asked what was wrong with him. Seeing him lying there, he shouted joyfully, "Hey, he's finished." He pressed his fingers to his wrist, checked his pulse, and said that everything was fine, even stronger than before. Ma Shi finally sighed with relief. Huang Feng wondered why he had become stronger. He trembled, asking about his body, and was surprised himself. He suddenly stood up and asked what constitution he had. He answered, "Heavenly combat constitution." He muttered under his breath, "Heavenly martial physique," then snapped back angrily. He was consumed by anger that the righteous constitution contradicted demonic arts. Ma Shi shouted for him to calm down while falling. He fiercely cursed his fate. There was only a little more than a month left until the duel, and his condition was critical. He asked who they were, and Ma Shi replied that they were Chief Administrator Du and Elder Zhao. Ma Shi panicked, begging him not to die. He silently swore that he would not die, fool. The rain grew heavier, and Mashi reproached him, reminding him that he had already been bedridden for 3 days. From behind, he shouted, asking if he was sure he had really recovered. Wu Ching kept walking, thinking that those 3 days had almost finished him and his already decayed body before the duel. He frowned and told them to shut up and go out to the duel. First, you need a sword. He turned sharply, pointed at Masha, and ordered him to go immediately and find one. He said that they still have to worry about food, there is no money for a sword, and they are up to their ears in debt. Wu Chen finally understood the declining clan first needs to settle its finances. Wu Chen insisted if the debt is already so huge, a little more what difference does it make? Masha panicked. What? He shouted, warning, are you going to borrow again? Are you crazy? But Wu Chen ignored him and coldly cut him off. Shut up. He smiled, came up with a plan, and without delay sent letters to 2 elders. The 2 elders read the letter, and Boshin shouted angrily, the young master has gone to the gatekeeper's sect again. Huang Feng reassured Don T, worry. The gatekeeper's sect will definitely kick him out. But Bo Shinside responded heatedly that it was not about that at all. His face became gloomy. He feared that if he provoked the gatekeeper's sect, the Shu assassin's sect would intervene. At the gatekeeper's sect gate, Wu Qin cracked his fingers, looked at the giant before him, and asked to be admitted to the sect master. The guard Lu Hu sneered and said, if he came to play, let him come in. Wu Xin defiantly raised an eyebrow and ordered someone older to be called. Lu Hu growled in response, and Ma Shi hurriedly apologized, the young master is ill. Wu Qin raised his eyes directly at Lu Hu and asked in a quiet voice why he was staring. Suddenly a gold coin flew up, and a man came out of it, asking what was happening. Lu Hu said he wanted to see the sect master, and Wu Qin became curious, could this man be a higher-ranking person? The man flipped the coin again and asked for what purpose. Wu Qin calmly replied that he wanted to borrow more money. Hearing this, Zhongbao caught the coin and coldly threw it. So he is a guest. Zhongbao and Lu Hu stepped aside, opened the door, and said that a meeting with the sect leader was not necessary, just come in. Walking down the corridor, Ma Shi leaned toward Wu Qin's ear and whispered quietly, young master. He cautiously suggested turning back, feeling that something was wrong. Wu Qin clicked his tongue and said, we have already come this far. What else is there to say? Ma Shi leaned closer and quietly told that a few days ago, his matrons saw the sect leader fighting and tearing open a cultivator's chest, saying that he mastered the technique of killing the double sky and killing the moon with the black hand. Wu Qin did not hear properly and asked again. Ma Shi repeated. They mocked scornfully, as if the servants were smarter than Wu Qin, but it was already too late to turn back. The guards immediately drew their swords, waiting for Zhongbao's order begin. Zhongbao laughed. There were too many people near the gates to openly beat the son of the body of the Fireflower clan. He curled his lips and sneered, as if to say, if you can't even pay the percentages, you have no right to come here. He would not allow Wu Qin to keep squeezing everything out of them as his parents did. Masha fell to her knees and begged for mercy, and Wu Qin, stunned, asked, like my parents? Suddenly he realized he had said the wrong thing, and images from the time when he was Zheng Tian surfaced in his memory. The impatient guard shouted, start! Zhang Bao nodded, just give them a lesson, and the soldiers responded in unison. But Wu Qin swiftly slipped through, grabbed his wrist and broke his arm. Looking at his hand, he thought, with such a body, it's better to rely on cunning than on strength. Zhongbao flipped a coin and gave the order to another soldier, kill Wu Qin. The soldier burst in, the sword cut through the air, but Wu Qin stood rooted as if he had already foreseen everything. He poured all his strength into the strike, preparing to cut the opponent in half. The blade flew at a furious speed. Wu Qin bent down and dodged. The two circled in the darkness. The man roared, spun, and struck like 2 gusts of wind fighting for life. Wu Xin bounced off nimbly and thought, I cannot match strength, I will have to rely on my legs. Suddenly seized by inspiration, he enthusiastically struck his opponent with his forehead on the chin. The man lost his balance, blood splattered, and Zhongbao seized the chance and rushed forward. He struck downward, but Wu Qin dodged. He exploded with a roar of rage. They surged forward, but Wu Qin skillfully flipped and rolled without stopping. No one could guess where he would turn. Zhongbao and his thugs fell and only slowly got back on their feet. Not seeing Wu Qin, Mashi panicked and shouted, are you okay? He sat down, replied that he was fine, and Masha curiously asked where he had learned that strange fighting style. He admitted honestly, it is not a martial art, just tricks. He began wandering the streets. Masha, surprised, asked when that young master had ever wandered the streets. Zhongbao jumped up, flipped a coin, and smiled mockingly, challenging him try to dodge one more move and launched an attack. Wu Qin frowned, thinking, is all this because of one coin? He exploded with fury, and sharply ordered the soldiers to step back, deciding to handle it himself. Swallowing, Wu Qin hastily said that he wanted to meet with the sect leader, and asked why it was so difficult. Zhongbao drew his sword and coldly replied that the sect leader was not someone he could meet. He sneered, ordered to smash Wu King, and rushed down to strike. A sudden flash of light made Wu Chen draw his stick to block the blow. Zhongbao frowned and muttered in surprise that it was just a stick, while Wu Chen jumped aside and thought that using a stick as a sword was a good idea for now. Blow after blow, block after block they exchanged without pause. No one gave up. He remained alert, thinking that the man's techniques were really as strange as they said. At that very moment Zhongbao opened up, and Wu Chen instantly noticed it. He struck right into the gap, pierced the hand, blood splattered. He was stunned. He did not expect Wu Chen to block the sword with a stick, and immediately find his weak spot. He chased step by step after that rotten rat who growled, while Wu Chen laughed and told him not to underestimate the stick. He twirled the stick and smiled, confident that it would scare him. Chief Vital followed the stick and struck Zhongbao, stunned that Wu Chen had reached that level so quickly. He tried to stab again, but Wu Chen easily dodged, and he wondered if this was the person he once knew. He raised an eyebrow and asked exactly to whom the clan owed a debt. The sticks pierced deep into the flesh and hit the bone in his elbow joint. Standing before him, he sneered at their pathetic martial skills and even dared to demand repayment. To taste the martial art you despise, Wu Chen just clicked his tongue and replied, "When will I do that?" Zhongbao rushed forward with his sword, shouting, "Your farce ends here!" Blackhand, the twin technique of Heaven's extermination and Moon's killing. The ultimate move. But Wu Chen only coldly snorted, the same one who had mocked. "So it s you," he said, and swiftly dodged the strike. The opponent froze in shock. He really dodged. And at that moment, Zhongbao noticed a strong punch from Wu Chen was rushing straight at him. At that moment he saw only the sword spinning, and his head buzzed. He could not understand why Wu Chen concealed such overwhelming power. At that moment Wu Chen directed his strike straight at Zhongbao and everything shook. Zhongbao spat out blood, muttering something indistinctly. "Bastard, how do you intend to pay for the consequences?" Again, Wu Chen lightly tossed a coin into the air and said, "I did not come here to listen to your threats. But if you tell me what I want to hear, I can give you a little more time, so I will say it again." Wu Chen turned around. His expression became terrible, and he said, "Lend me some money." He laughed with pleasure, thinking he had not been this happy for a long time. As soon as he finished, Masha rushed forward and snatched the pipe from him. He slammed the pipe on the table and barked angrily, "This harms the young master." Wu Chen just clicked his tongue with regret. To this Zhongbao stood up, and Wu Chen asked, "Why do they borrow if they are so afraid of losses and do not even demand collateral?" He raised an eyebrow and said he sensed treachery here. The man bowed his head to object, but Wu Chen knocked on the table and said he still hears him plotting something. Wu Chen coldly warned him to think carefully before they shove cubes into his mouth so that he cannot utter a single word. He sighed heavily and admitted that it was an order from the Tsinghua Merchant Guild. Wu Chen asked what deal they had made. Seeing him falter, Wu Chen called him out and forced him to tell the truth. He growled as if warning, "Do not pledge your loyalty to those who will abandon you in life and death." Frightened, he lowered his head, trembled, and confessed that there was a secret contract. He said that the merchants forced them to give loans at usurious interest rates to drive the Fireflower Body clan into debt. He continued and added in response that the guild promised to sow the lands. Flipping through the report, he asked how much 300 stories would turn into in a year. The man replied that it would be 5,000. Hearing this, Wu Chen laughed loudly and called it nonsense. He threw the report on the table, coughed, and told him to continue. Pressing his chin to his hand, he asked who was behind them. He admitted that it was the Shu assassin sect, which had recently joined the Four Martial Heavens. He mockingly declared that the Four Martial Heavens were a real mess. Then Mashi quietly made a sound. When he looked back, the boy immediately asked, "How do you know them?" Wu Chen briefly replied, "I don't want to explain." He asked why the one who went for the money had not returned yet. Zhongbao replied that he needed a little more time. The man with the chest of gold ran in, handed over all 300 taels, and immediately caught Wu Chen's attention. He opened it, carefully checked, and nodded with satisfaction. He stood up, handed the chest to Masha, and barked not to ask questions and to hold it tightly. In the rain, he strictly ordered to record the loan in the ledger. He promised to return and pay back every penny as soon as he dealt with the merchants. Suddenly he remembered and warned them do not exploit people uncontrollably. He looked sternly and warned if they cross the line they will be crushed. Hearing this, Wu Ching only sighed as if he understood everything. He and Masha left, walked, and thought about who to destroy first. Returning home, Bo Xin burst out with a joyful exclamation, but seeing blood on himself he screamed in alarm. He asked anxiously about the blood. Wu Chen immediately replied that it was not his. He hurriedly asked what happened in the sect of the gatekeepers. Wu Chen calmly said he just borrowed a few stories, they were short. He said directly that they must watch the martial arts masters and not let them go anymore. Bo Xin trembled and asked where the money came from. The sect of the gatekeepers definitely would not lend. Wu Qin replied that he forced them to record everything in the ledger. He patted Bo Xin on the shoulder, told him to make sure the brothers had food and clothes, and he would take care of the rest. After talking, he went inside, leaving only a brief instruction: do good. He left, leaving three standing there confused, watching him go. Bo Xin quietly whispered if Huang Feng had lost his mind to behave so wildly, and Huang Feng just clicked his tongue and said nothing. He sighed and whispered to himself that he never had parents and did not know what to say at all. He told everything, said that temporarily the money was fine, and promised to take care of the brothers and servants, asking them not to worry. Two children outside heard everything. He also said that in a few days he would fight Zheng Daobao over a secret clan manuscript. He cracked his fingers, full of rage, and said he would break his neck. An old commemorative plaque stood motionless under trembling candles, and the flame flickered in the night wind. In the silent night under the cold moonlight, a lonely wooden tower appeared. Dawn came. The sunlight pierced the clouds and hit the tower, frightening the space. Still at dawn, three men hurriedly carried heavy boards inside. They wearily laid down the boards and grumbled with irritation they did not understand his orders. Masha muttered that those things were so heavy that backs would break, and someone replied that once they finished everything, they would go drink and rest. Hearing the noise, Wu Qin opened the door and cheerfully asked if they had brought them. He inspected each box, frowning and mumbling that in the 50, 80, and 110 containers everything was correct. Masha asked with curiosity what he would do with them, since martial arts masters carry so many heavy things. He simply opened the box to look at the sword. After a moment, Wu Qin said with a sly smile, "If the sword is in the hand, then of course, it is for cutting." He eagerly grabbed the hilt, thinking he would first train with the nastiest of the 50. He tried his best, but could not lift the sword. Masha asked inquisitively if he really intended to use it. He thought irritably he expected difficulties, but did not imagine that he would not even be able to lift 50 carts. His body was too weak. He clenched his fist and firmly swore he would never give up. Soon he was gasping for breath, trembling, and said that he could lift a little with both hands. He shakily turned to Masha and begged her not to stand confused, but to quickly follow orders. Barely carrying the sword, Wu Qin reminded Masha to add a little more meat to the ration. Masha sighed, watching his figure disappear, and said with a sneer that it did not calm him down. In his private room, he slowly raised the sword, determined to master it. Wu Qin raised the sword with both hands, reminding himself that only 2 weeks remained until the duel. He pressed his lips, realizing that his talent contradicted Master Mai's teachings, so he had no choice. He had to learn the 9 unmatched swords from the Master's friend. He firmly told himself that this was the only way to get out of this mess. Elsewhere, Daobao, admiring the scenery and grabbing his loot, suddenly exclaimed in surprise. He raised an eyebrow and asked if Hua Wu Ching really had blown the guild guards to smithereens. The guard nodded. They were seriously wounded for 2 weeks, and this confused Daobao, because, supposedly, Hua Wu Ching did not have a dantian. He threw with a sneer that the opponent was clearly not an ordinary person. Daobao smiled and said that maybe he would prepare a gift for the young Master Hua from the Hua physical clan. He continued plucking the strings, pouring gloomy intentions into every rhythm. He thought with pleasure, impatiently awaiting the duel to finally see the true face of Hua Wu Ching. Every movement revealed a heavenly combat physique, a body made to endure such intensity. Soon everything he asked for was ready. Wu Ching looked thoughtfully and barely nodded. Mashi had prepared everything. He shuddered slightly, took a deep breath, and promised himself that he could finally begin. At first, Wu Ching subtly shifted the arch of his foot. He prepared to perform the 9 unmatched swords. The first form, advanced step. He remembered the Master's advice, always move forward with the sword. Immediately, Wu Ching rushed into the second form, the technique that breaks soldiers. His heart was pounding, but he continued performing the techniques, enduring the tension, and resolutely not allowing anything to stop him. The ball flew chaotically, leaving streaks that flashed too quickly to be seen clearly. When the sphere flew straight into his face, he executed the third form, the energy rupture. But while he was intently watching the ball, it suddenly looped and hit him in the back. He screamed in pain, sounding even more pitiful than a spoiled old man. Having finished the third form, he immediately prepared to enter the fourth. He hung several bamboo tubes high, let them fall and become targets. Wu Ching was about to perform the fourth form, martial rupture. There is no martial art that can completely counter every technique. No matter how intricate martial arts are, they always have a weak spot. A pure sword can still pierce through them. But to the master's surprise, Wu Ching failed to land a single strike. Fortunately, suddenly a bamboo tube fell and hit the rope. Even if 10,000 warriors storm forward, all will submit to the sword. As soon as he finished the move, suddenly a log flew from somewhere and hit him on the head. He roared a challenge and threw the sixth technique one cut to break the moon. This move could have split the moon in half, but in his hands he barely extinguished a few candles. Soon he moved to the seventh one, cut to split the earth, a strike that could cleave the ground. But in a moment his face paled, the statue had not a single chip at all. He was forced to use the eighth technique, Sky Split, which can cut through the very sky. After training for some time, his body was exhausted from fatigue, and the sword slipped from his hands. He lay on the floor, knocked out, and thought that having already shattered both himself and the sword, he could stop using it. Wu Ching closed his eyes and barely managed to repeat the last move. He remembered how the master asked, "Did you remember?" And how he answered, "I remembered." But whether this half-learned sword technique can even be called a martial art, I doubted. The explanation sounded awkward, like a child inventing nonsense in martial-esque madness. The master was embarrassed, cleared his throat, and said, "I do not object. But I cannot allow lost supreme mastery to fade away." He was the only swordsman who could match the master, and this made him wonder, does he use inner chi just like I do? The master replied that he applied bodily techniques, and one who joined a sect cannot fully master them. So I had to pass this on to someone who does not belong to any sect. When he heard this, his face darkened. Bodily technique, how petty, he said. But before he could finish, a kick struck him in the forehead. "Do as I say," the master barked, and he grabbed his head and hurriedly replied, all right. The lesson began. Practice 1,000 times and the body will change. 100,000 times and the inner energy will merge with the sword. 1,000,000 and the world will have no equals. He listened with interest, thinking that 1,000 times a day could be endured in 3 years. Was he really that strong? The master replied, "Not sure. If it were a fight to the death, one of us would have died." He raised his eyes to the sky and quietly admitted to himself he was also curious about who that person really was. Returning to reality, Mashi rushed forward and slapped him several times. He woke up sharply and shouted, "Wait a minute." Meanwhile, Ma Shi was panicking, asking if he was all right, and the irritated Wu Ching warned, "If these hits continue, your ears will bloom." He got up and thought that after only one training session he fainted and was still very far from the goal. Mashi brought a tray with food and told him to eat to satisfy his hunger. Mashi blinked and replied, "You said yesterday that you want to eat this. We haven't eaten meat for a long time, but Wu Ching demanded more. Tomorrow there must be beef to strengthen me." Mashi froze, then nodded gloomily. Beef adds strength. He ate and, without raising his eyes, ordered, "If there is little money, take from what I borrowed. Tell the servant not to worry from now until the duel with Qingdao Bao. Every meal must have meat." Mashi asked with interest who taught him martial arts. Wu Ching seemingly paid no attention and waved it off. "What happened?" He said lightly. "Useless, like me. Suddenly learned martial arts. It is clear that it seems strange to you." Mashi's people recalled how this man once defeated the gatekeeper's sect with only sticks, although he knew no martial arts, and now practiced strange sword techniques. Swallowing the last bite, he said, "I already told that guy. Telling you won't hurt either." He was about to say who he really was, but Mashi interrupted him. "Stop, I don't want to know." He was afraid that he would lose his mind, change, and disappear again. He swallowed and quietly whispered, "You want to leave the Fireflower Body Clan, right?" He said seriously, "I want to go. Only when this family becomes the strongest martial clan in Sichuan will I consider it. Otherwise, I have nothing else to do." Mashi froze in surprise. "This is the clan of the highest marshals in Sichuan." And he replied, "Yes, why are you surprised?" Wu Ching instantly slapped himself on the forehead. It immediately swelled. He barked, "Enough, go!" Masha had to leave. Sitting silently for a few minutes, he quietly asked his former client, "Are you satisfied now, Hua Wu Ching?" Huan Feng looked out the window and remembered that the match was in 10 days. Bo Xin muttered, "Qingdao Bao. He will definitely try to kill the young master and seize the treasure of the Fire Emperor." Bo Xin looked puzzled. "What did you say?" Huan Feng continued. "Think about it." Huan Feng remembered 2 children. His heart tangled like a ball of wires. He understood we cannot allow those 2 children to die along with them. And it turned out it was Wu Ching's breath after sword training. After several days of hard training, he felt his hands became noticeably more defined. He could barely swing a 70 cat sword with one hand, but his techniques were still clumsy. A familiar voice called Hua Wu Ching's brother, who was still training, and he looked back. He waved them off as if to say, "Go play somewhere else." But the children froze and said they were worried because he had been forcing himself to train for several days. They asked if he trained because of those words in Wu Ching's mind. The girl who shouted, "Because of you, our parents died," appeared again. and Su Yan had since carried a feeling of guilt, saying she was just too angry and didn't mean it. He involuntarily thought seeing them, he remembered 2 other children. He gently stroked both of their heads and reassured them, "It is okay, don't worry." Daojin imitated the sword stance, and Su Yan stood nearby correcting, "No, brother, hold your hands straighter." Wu Ching softened, thinking they imitate me so cutely. Looking at them, he remembered training with the master and suddenly understood something. The master's words burned in his head. Wu Ching. Exhale when you swing the sword, the longer, the better. The teacher once made him balance a basin of water on his head, and ordered him to slow down, return to stance, and breathe shortly and slowly. He pondered. Here it was, the weak spot of the 9 unmatched swords. He gripped the sword hilt, almost forgetting that lesson, then put down the sword and smiled. "Don't worry, brothers, you are the strongest." Then he instantly slammed the door, separating himself from the children. The children looked at each other anxiously. Will he be okay? Probably. But no. Wu Chen once again threw himself into training without rest, and every word of the master came alive in his mind. Wu Chen drew his sword and performed the 5th technique, army killing, unleashing all his chi in one explosion. Seeing that his movement had improved, he beamed with joy. This was a chi cultivation method, accumulating internal strength through body movements. He leaned back and with one jerk cut the candle. Unlike meditative methods, the art of movement with a shield was considered low-grade and unexpected. Not like before. Now he adjusted his breathing to the rhythm of the sword so that his body would not sway. Gradually his movements noticeably improved, all thanks to the calm Chief Lu. After many exhausting trainings, the once turbulent Dantian began to thicken. Suddenly Huang Feng appeared and asked if the young master was still training, which stunned Masha. He hurriedly covered the box and said that the young master seemed like a completely different person. Where he used to collapse, now he no longer falls. He said that Wudang therapy seemed effective, and proudly recalled how Wu Qin cried during acupuncture. Feeling this, Huan Feng grabbed his head and exclaimed that even the fake methods of Wudang cannot so noticeably improve the condition after one procedure. Huan Feng told him to report anything, but Mashi rushed away without waiting for the rest of the words, repeatedly saying, "Yes, yes." He opened the door and, smiling, invited the young master to stop and eat. Sweat was pouring from Mashi, and Vuchen, out of breath, complained that the room was too cramped. He was in shock. "What?" He closed his eyes to catch his breath and repeated, "I said it's too cramped here for training." The next morning at Martial Hall the sky was cloudless, and the sun gently warmed. He brazenly spat out unpleasant words. "Is someone already here?" Mashi awkwardly followed, announcing that the young master wants to use the great Martial Hall. He cracked his joints, warmed up, and shouted loudly, "I am occupying Martial Hall for training. There is another place, go there." These words angered them. They muttered about how he spoke as if he had never seen a coffin in his life. Yet he was already crying. Having a sword does not yet make one a warrior. He has never wetted his blade with blood. Seeing their faces, Wu Chen sneered, "You have big eye sockets." One man was already about to object, although he was a young gentleman. Someone stepped forward and stopped him. That person spoke for everyone and gestured to let him know to step back a pace. "Sir, let us go. The young master wants to practice." The novice turned out to be captain of the cold sword Ta Bao Ren. He thought Wu Chen was half-conscious and didn't want to bother him. Mumbling as he passed by, he had gone mad again. Wu Chen, enraged, immediately called back. Wu Chen teased further, "If you have an opinion, say it to my face. Talking behind my back is cowardice." Bao Ren paused for a moment, ready to argue. "So what?" Wu Chen laughed. Then the swordsman appeared. "Young sir, even if the sky fell, no one would dare resist the future head of the family." But Wu Chen did not let go. "You know the saying, a dog that bites does not bark if it barks. It is out of fear." He continued to tease. "If you don't intend to be a hero, then don't bark. Live your cowardly life." Wu Chen became even more agitated. "Who are you to make demands?" Masha was so tense that she dared to peek with only one eye. Wu Chen stepped forward and resolutely replied, "I have never known regret." The sheaths fell, but instead of continuing the fight, he thrust his Tao into the ground. The martial arts masters froze in astonishment. The duel took place without swords. Although he was pressed, Boren lunged in response, a sharp upward stab, and Wu Qing spun to dodge. His constant dodges drove the man to shout, "Young Master Hua, take the sword and fight like a man." Boren said sharply, "I have served Hua for 25 years. The clan's decline is your fault." He took a fighting stance and said mockingly, "Now you want to learn martial arts?" He performed the second form of the 9 unmatched swords, a technique that breaks soldiers. Sparks flew as the weapons clashed. As soon as he finished, he immediately struck the man in the face. He declared decisively, "From now on, everything will be different." The man thought to himself, incredible, his eyes have changed. In the last clear moment, He thought this is the gaze of a martial arts master and instantly fell. The spectators were stunned. Could it be that young Master Hua really won? Wu Ching placed his hands on his hips and asked, "Any more complaints?" The outraged martial arts master shouted, "That was a cowardly act." He yelled that Captain Baoren had no right to wrong him, but he was cut off by a sharp, "Shut up." He said he learned from him. Wu Ching briefly replied, "Fine, step back." The man bowed and said, "Yes, sir." Wu Ching coldly threw out, "You two go." The previous fighter still protested he is the young master. "Isn't that too much?" He asked. "Why did you spare him?" The man replied, "Who said I spared him? I was going to cripple him." He was surprised. "Are you serious?" The man replied. "Do I sound like I'm joking?" He stammered. No." Mashi also pondered, when did he start being able to do this? He placed his hands on his hips and looked at the sky. Still, it's an improvement, right? Probably. The figure stood, looking into the distance, while someone's voice discussed the duel with the Tsinghua Merchant Guild. Bo Xin asked Elder Zhao, "How long have we been in the sect?" He replied, "About 37 years. Bo Xin sighed. "Oh, what a long time it is." His hand-to-hand combat skills made even the proud Duan clan acknowledge her brilliance. He clasped hands and said that we were both captivated by his radiance and swore allegiance. Bo Xin said this is not betrayal but a way to settle family affairs. He replied, "I know. No need to lecture me." He looked at the ancestral tablet and said in a heavy voice, 17 years of caring for the madness of the young Master Hua, that is also 17 years of watching the decline of the Yanhua clan." He continued, "When we meet Emperor Yang again, he will not blame us. Are you ready?" Bajin replied, "Of course. We need some silver, a few skilled warriors, and 4 travel passes." "You go first!" suddenly shouted Huang Fen. "You!" He remembered that figure and said gloomily, "After all, he is your blood relative. Someone must help him recover." He revealed that a martial arts master from the Yunzhong sect, hired by the Tsinghua Trade Guild, will be a witness to the duel. Huang Feng shouted angrily, "A witness? Isn't that outright robbery?" and added, "This shows that they take it seriously." Bo Xin studied the Tsinghua Merchant Guild, those vile scoundrels. He ordered, "You will arrive first at the meeting place and wait for me. 2 children will be shocked." Someone asked, "The meat has been tough lately, is it just me?" Masha replied dryly, "No. Cheap beef is naturally tough." Wu Qin asked, "Are we without money?" Mashi replied, "I don't know," and the servant extended 2 small silver coins. Wu Qin asked, "Are you crazy?" Mashi took a sip and calmly replied, "I don't get angry over trifles," then teased, "So why do you say things that make me want to hit you?" He stood up, patted his chest and said, "Enough. How do I look today in this outfit?" "Masha is cold. I don't know for sure, but when you are in bandages it suits you more." A bump grew on his head. Wu Qin said coldly, "Let's go." Offended, he followed him. He squinted. "Dante say you were here to advise me to run away." The man put his hand on his chest. "Of course not," he replied. "I know. Wait for me. I will deal with those bandits myself." He muttered to himself, "This old man worries too much. I will smash them to pieces. Old people are so nervous." The manor gates suddenly opened, and sunlight flooded the yard. Someone sharply pointed to the sky and announced a duel between the Tsinghua Trade Guild and the Fireflower clan. He finished writing and shouted loudly, "Place your bets." Someone asked about the odds. He glanced at the list and said, "Let us see." He announced that the highest payout was only 4-1. The player pondered, worth the bet. He firmly explained that fighters should support military clans, not the merchant guild. And after thinking, the man decided, "I bet 2 taels on the Fireflower body clan." At that moment someone exclaimed, "Oh, young Master Hua from the Hua clan has arrived." From afar, through the dust, confident footsteps were heard. Someone was walking decisively. Wu Qin didn't even look, he was leisurely savoring a caramel hawthorn on a stick. Someone, all embarrassed, asked, "Can I cancel the same 2 tael bet I made earlier?" When he arrived, he said indifferently, "See, I am not late." Bo Xin only remarked, "But eating so much before the match is overdoing it." The one under the umbrella addressed the 2 of them. "Long time no see, right?" Chu Yen elegantly struck her face with a fan and asked, "For the sake of the family, I'll ask again, do you really want a duel?" The crowd buzzed. "What is this? The Fireflower clan itself demands a duel? They have no right to do that, he is crazy." Hearing the rumors, Wu Qing waved them off and thought, "It seems I have been challenged, this debt must be paid." After the meal, he looked around, his murderous intent was clearly visible. "We cannot allow the Tsinghua Merchants Guild to seize the secret manuscript. We have no choice but to risk everything in battle. Don't you agree?" The crowd froze even more. The Trade Guild dares to dream of the secret technology of the martial clan? And this is even Tsinghua. "What is going on here?" She released a murderous intent and asked, "I wonder how long you can keep calm." Soon they lit the signal fire. Everyone fell silent and watched. He decisively declared the witness of today's duel will be Khan Icon from the Congdon sect. He solemnly introduced the heir of the Qinghua Merchants Guild, Qing Dao Bao. And on the other hand appeared a young gentleman of the Hua family, Hua Wu Ching. The crowd shouted. He proclaimed in the name of the Congdong sect, "Fight honestly and with honor." Dao Bao said with a smile, "Oh, it seems the guild has delivered the goods to you." Wu Ching blinked. "Goods?" He boasted. "The outfit you are wearing is the uniform of Fireflower body clans. I sent it as a welcome gift to the young master." Hearing this, Wu Ching sharply drew his sword. "Oh, is that so?" He spun the sword, throwing down the gauntlet. "When this duel ends, each of the remaining shipments will have to be returned." The crowd held its breath. The corporeal clan Fireflower with a sword? Could a sect known for excellent unarmed technique possess the art of the sword? They looked confusedly at the two lying on the floor. "Isn't the Fire Emperor praised for palm strikes, not for swordsmanship?" Bo Chen anxiously asked again about what happened this morning, and when he was advised to run away, the young master exploded with rage. He looked suspiciously, and the boy, stammering, muttered that it was a joke, and insisted that the young lord would definitely win. Ma Shi argued with himself whether to run, and Bo Chen doubted whether the young lord's madness was infecting him. No objections were heard. The drummer struck the drum, signaling the official start. The clash thundered as Wu Ching lunged like a fierce tiger. Even Dao Bao and Ma Shi froze. They could not believe their eyes. Everyone wondered where he got such strength, since he was constantly called mad and had never studied martial arts. Dao Bao gritted his teeth in anger as he was relentlessly pushed back. Unwilling to accept this, he madly rushed forward, but it still looked childish. Although Dao Bao attacked again and again, Wu Ching parried every strike. Behind them, an explosion thundered, but both of them still continued to fight. They kept clashing face to face, neither retreated. Seeing that they were still holding on, Chu Yan was stunned Hua Wu had endured for so long. But she was firmly convinced that compared to the kung fu she had honed for years, Wu Qin decisively took the initiative and launched an attack on Dao Bao. Their weapons clashed again. Entangled in the struggle, they trembled with fear. Then they separated and continued swinging their weapons, causing explosions one after another. As soon as they parted, Dao Bao instantly raised his weapon, ready to defend. The slash caused a powerful explosion, and he was forced to raise his sword to block the strike. Dao Bao's eyes widened in shock. He could not believe the power of that blow. He angrily rushed forward, shouting that this time he would cripple Hua Wu Ching. Seeing Dao Bao rushing forward with unwavering determination, Wu Qin decided to break his will as well. The nose carried murderous intentions and a deeply rooted grudge. He lunged forward, confident in his skill. Both unleashed their signature moves, unwilling to yield. He instantly dodged to the side, evading Dao Bao's deadly strikes. Bo Chen panicked but admitted that Wu Qin was holding well, and Ma Shi tensed, convinced he had not yet given all his strength. Hearing this, the man asked in surprise, and the boy explained that he had secretly seen him training hard, so even greater strength might soon break out. Zhao Zhao felt that his current skills matched the opponent's, although perhaps the latest training was still insufficient. And Wu Qing only wiped the sweat and secretly decided that how strong the opponent was did not matter. Then he charged again, convinced that he would eventually defeat them all. Like a gale, Wu Qing rushed forward, launched a move, and spat. "You scoundrel!" He kept pushing forward, driven by his own determination, whispering to himself, "I will do it." They stood face to face, the tension taut like a bowstring, and no one yielded. Wu Qing lunged forward and struck with his sword. Full of hatred, he was ready to defeat him at any cost. A guiding voice came from the tent. "Go straight east 5 miles. Then the voice ordered to turn aside, meet the camellia, and travel 3 more miles. Following Huan Feng's instructions, the carriage stopped in front of a secluded but picturesque tavern. Seeing the inn, the man sighed with relief. He had finally arrived. Seeing Dao Zhen and Su Yan still asleep, he relaxed with relief. It meant delivering them had gone smoothly. Before leaving, Huang Feng asked again, but the bosun stubbornly insisted on staying. He wanted to personally retrieve the young master's body. He closed his eyes and stubbornly whispered, "I will personally escort young Master Hua the last stretch of the way." Unable to convince him, the man said goodbye and agreed to meet again at the agreed place. He raised his eyes to the sky and sighed quietly. He did not know what was right and what was wrong. Every time Wu Qing made a move, Dao Bao immediately responded. Green and red flashes, embodying their clash, exploded and flickered again and again. He thought Dao Bao is young, but there is strength in him. He just lacks experience. 2 streams of murderous intent collided, and a cloud of dust and smoke rose into the air. The fighters and spectators below held their breath and watched every movement tensely. The crowd gasped and murmured how could they be equal. The young Master Hua even seemed a bit better, and someone whispered Dao Bao was once an external disciple of the Kongdong sect, but clearly not outstanding. Dao Bao gritted his teeth, enduring the barrage of Wu Qin's attacks. Bo Xin shouted in an alarmed voice, and Ma Shi hurriedly warned young Master Hua to dodge. Chu Yan stood aside, forcedly smiling, but it was clear he was tense. Wu Qin delivered the first strike from the 9 unmatched swords, the Vanguard Dep. Someone exclaimed in shock. He really blocked that. An explosion sounded. He was thrown back a staff's length, barely staying on his feet. Dao Bao's shout burst out in fury. Damn this madman. But Wu Qin did not wait. With a mocking smile, as if saying you're too slow, he delivered a decisive blow. While Dao Bao rushed into attack, he only gritted his teeth and looked helplessly. He executed the second technique from the 9 unmatched swords, the soldier breaking technique. He panicked, not understanding why he was powerless against that attack, not grasping the situation. He only stumbled in his thoughts. He couldn't repel it. He took the entire blow of the sinister Wu Qin upon himself. He stubbornly resisted, not wanting to admit it. Could it be that I lost to someone without an elixir field? In an instant, he swung his blade in one motion, and one of Dao Bao's hands flew off. Falling in choking smoke, the sword and body collapsed like withered leaves. Bo Xin and Ma Shi were covered in cold sweat and froze in shock. Dao Bao lay motionless, blood flooding the severed hand. Someone asked. He raised it high and declared, "This is a blood debt for 17 years. He calmly replied that since Dao Bao belongs to the Tsinghua Merchant Guild, they will simply find a way to sew the hand back on. He asked why it had to go so far. Wu Qin snorted coldly. What did you say? The man objected, saying the duel was already decided, and Wu Qin calmly replied that if so, then he also has something to say. He asked bluntly, did you really use the 7 wounds fist against a 5-year-old who didn't know martial arts? His voice was icy. This put an end to 17 years of revenge. From now on, anyone who dares to provoke the clan of the body of the fiery flower will pay. He warned them to prepare, then turned and walked away. Tears choked her. She silently vowed never to forget this humiliation. The martial arts masters froze as if struck by lightning. Everyone's jaws dropped at what had happened. Only when Wu Qin raised his blade and left did the crowd erupt in cheers. The crowd buzzed. In a few moves he dealt with the outer disciples of Kongdong. His swordsmanship was strange. It was as if an unparalleled master had appeared. Masha and Bo Xin rushed after him, calling out, "We are returning to the residence," he said. Bo Xin was confused but obeyed nonetheless. Looking at his figure, the man silently thought, when did young Master Hua's shoulders become so broad? Suddenly he called the chief steward Du, who, startled by the surprise, responded instantly. He vaguely hinted at the matter that threw the steward into panic, and made him wonder if young Master had learned about the escape. He cleared his throat and asked if all the gold given to him had been spent. The steward hesitated and said he had saved some. Wu Qin grumbled that he would stop by the sect of the guarding gates for money on the way. Just as the butler thought it was over, Wu Qin added one more. He said he didn't mind if Elder Zhao and the martial masters wanted to leave the clan. The steward froze when he continued. But if they dared to tear him away from his 2 relatives, Wu Qin coldly warned they would have to risk their lives. Huang Feng sat next to Dao Zhen and Su. Yen the girl grabbed his hair and scolded him. The boy puffed his cheeks and put his hands on his hips, and Huang Feng hurriedly unfolded the pigeon letter to calm them before reading. Huang Feng shouted in panic, "Oh no!" and scared the girl who was still holding his hair. He sighed heavily over the letter. The escape plan was exposed. And now they demanded that young Master Hua return immediately. Wu Qin spoke directly. As for the money, it is time to settle up. Bo Xin froze. Wu Qin coldly and emphatically declared that he intended to deal with the sect of the guarding gates. Didn't he think so? He told the chief steward to rest calmly, but the steward was still worried. He saw that the young master was already different. Noticing his concern, Wu Qin said he was too worried, but the caretaker still warned him not to get involved with the sect of the Su assassins. Wu Qin reluctantly replied, and left. Although he had already left, the steward did not take his eyes off him, watching as he walked away, and felt uneasy. Masha quietly asked if he really intended to go to the sect of the Guardian Gates, and he replied, "Yes. If we leave everything as it is, it will only get worse. Solve this now." He smiled and gently asked Masha to always stay close, and the boy was embarrassed, but obeyed anyway. Zheng Bao came out to meet him. Barely hiding her surprise, he had appeared again, quite unexpectedly. He remembered how he had injured the second young master Tsinghua, and Wu Qin simply said, "I am here to repay a debt." He looked around and teasingly said, "It's so quiet here when you are bankrupt." He behaved politely, and said that the gamblers had come to watch his duel. Wu Qin nodded. He asked, "Ulot probably bet on me, right?" Zheng Bao panicked, bowed, and apologized, while Wu Qin coldly asked, "The odds were in my favor. Did you make good money?" Wu Qin continued sternly, "You profited because of me. Are you really going to pretend that that's not the case?" Although irritated, he still politely promised to repay the debt. Wu Qin barely smiled and sat down. "All right, I'm glad to hear that." He glanced at Wu Qin and felt he had become stronger and different, cold, balanced. With the aura of a deadly martial arts master, he asked where their big boss was, and Zheng Bao wearily inquired why. Wu Qin slammed the table. "I don't like to ask twice. This round pot-bellied man was the leader of the gang Kui Yong Yi." Wu Qin mocked his head, which resembled an octopus. The leader did not argue, only said he had heard of him, and this irritated Wu Qin, who snapped back. Offended by Wu Qin's insolence, the man exploded with rage. He shouted, "You speak boldly. Coveting my goods, I am Heir'S Yin from the Su Assassin sect." Wu Qin thought he was from the Su Assassin sect, and angrily shouted, "Who allowed you to interfere? Do you want to die?" He lunged forward, shouting, "Come on, try to kill me!" Wu Qin stood firm. Whoever dared to stand in his way would not escape. Jin jumped back in shock, not daring to come closer. He forced a smile and secretly realized that Wu Qin was no ordinary youth. He praised his courage, but Wu Qin snorted mockingly, "That old man is not scary." Irritated, the man charged forward again and ordered Wu Qin not to be arrogant. When Ziying swung and lunged down, Wu Qin instantly jumped up to dodge. The man spun sharply and with his hand, like a blade, slashed across Wu Qin's neck. But Wu Qin easily dodged, as if he wasn't even trying. The man was irritated and stunned. How could a child dodge so easily? As he prepared for another strike, Wu Qing's needle stabbed straight into his eye. The man couldn't react in time, and was seriously injured. Everyone around froze in shock, silently with mouths agape in surprise. No one dared to do anything. They just stood and watched as he tortured Ziying, which made him even more furious. He threatened that the Su Assassin sect would retaliate, but Wu Qing just laughed. "Oh? Really?" He even threatened Wu Qing's family, which made Wu Qing abruptly stop and stare into his eyes. Wu Qing said coldly, "Let the assassin sect come, you will die here," and this made the man beg for mercy. He begged, promising wealth and beauties. Wu Qin smiled with contempt. "And now you were scared." Ziying immediately handed over all his assets to Chung. Chung said mockingly that good, the man is smart. Then he ominously threatened that if he did not cooperate, the wind would blow through several more holes, and the man would flee in terror. The old man was frightened, fell prostrate, and begged for mercy, and he was surprised that he himself began to plead for his life. The frightened old man whispered that he would give up all his property. He coldly said, "This property already belongs to him," and the man simply froze. He declared that the silver and crimes committed by that man equaled his wealth. The man turned pale and agreed to give everything. Suddenly he stabbed a needle into the old man's brain, coldly asking if he understood the words of others. He asked who stood highest after him. Zheng Bao stammered that he was the deputy leader of the sect, and he snorted, "So, it is you." Zheng Bao instantly fell to his knees, begging for mercy, and swearing to live honestly if spared. He asked how much the deceased's property was worth, and the man replied, "A total of 4,000 gold taels." He asked about the gang's wealth. Zheng Bao revealed everything, at least 10,000 gold taels and 500 taels of tribute. He quickly calculated in his head 4,000 from the leader, and 10,000 from the gatekeeper's sect, all belongs to him. Adding another 500 taels as tribute and compensation, in total about 20,000 taels. Well, fair enough. The man hastily promised to prepare the papers. When he was told to resolve it right on the spot, he replied, "Yes." He said coldly, "And now, how much are your lives worth?" He said he would spare only that one man, and the crowd panicked, fell to their knees, and begged for their lives. Standing before a pile of things, he said it was just loot from debt collection. He froze before the horde and hesitantly called the young master Hua. He reminded him of sexual support from Guardian Gate. The man asked about alliances. He replied no need to know. The man blurted out that Josie Kang from Scarlet Swords Act had sworn a brotherhood oath with Hazy Ying and Cheesy Ying. He paused in thought. Hazy Ying, the very one whose all 10 fingers are black. Boshan froze and asked. He nodded and told how he stuck a chopstick in the man's eye. The man was stunned. He whispered in a quiet voice, "It's hard to deal with such people. But if your restrictions appear, don't impose them on me. I will kill them all." He added, "Tonight prepare tender beef and don't forget to set the table for my family." The man thoughtfully guessed Hazy Ying is famous throughout Sichuan. And this young master seemed quite unremarkable. Could he be the same former young master? Somewhere nearby, a male voice authoritatively ordered to set up an ambush on the Fireflower Body Clan. A woman coldly replied that he was just a hired worker, and said nothing more. He answered, "Understood. We will return the child by dawn, no killings." He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Hua Wu Ching, I will destroy everything dear to you right before your very eyes." Once, the Fireflower body clans shone incredibly brightly. The Flame Emperor commanded respect throughout the martial arts world, and the arena was packed. Everyone came to see him. Even Tu Xuan from the Tang sect praised his character and fighting skills. In just one generation, the Fireflower body clan grew into a power that no one dared to underestimate. The most powerful masters feared them, and the residents of West City joyfully greeted the clan members every time they appeared. But after the death of the Flame Emperor, new leaders emerged, both those who knew how to rule and those waiting in line for the throne. The clans slowly faded, and even the most loyal began to leave. The righteous saw him as a hero, while enemies saw an unparalleled demon king feared by all. Why did the silhouette of the young master evoke in him a memory of the ancient Fire Emperor? A sudden call tore him from reality. "Chief Steward." Boshin froze. "Why are you the only one here? Where are the young master and the lady?" It was reported that the assassins of the Merchants Guild Qinghua set an ambush for us. Zhao Huangfeng and the fighters, risking their lives, held them back, but they were more numerous. He shouted in panic to inform the young lord, and rushed forward himself. They responded loudly and in unison to the command. "Yes, Chief Steward. If you continue to resist, the children will die too," Huangfeng said, choking with rage. He shouted a warning loudly, "Step back, dawn to cause chaos here." And this allowed them to unleash their attacks on him one after another. Scarhead ordered, "Take care of this side, leave one child, kill the rest." When the moment came, he swung his blade. "Die so you want to see me." He was struck in the palm and blood spurted from it like a fountain. At the decisive moment, the attacker cut again. Boshin did not have time to react and just stood, taking the blows. Falling to the ground in front of the children, the attacker was about to move on, deciding whom to kill and whom to spare. Dao Zhen stepped forward because the girl was trembling and calling him. He made a move. "Do you want this? Then you will die yourself." On his crazy face they understood, isn't this Hua Wu Ching, who has gone mad? They argued. Killing Hua Wu Ching might not work, so they decided to block his path and kill him. Throwing himself into the attack, the man still threatened, "You will not see the dawn, Hua Wu Ching." He could not recognize the opponent as skill, he was only good at intimidation. The bald man panicked. What the hell was that? Yet still they clung to hope and rushed forward together. Kill him. To give Wu Ching time to deal with them, he used the fifth form of the Sword of Nine Absolutes, and crushed everyone before him. This scared the others. They looked at him in horror, and wondered what kind of monster he was. Seeing that everyone was safe, especially the children, he finally exhaled. Only then did the little girl slowly open her eyes and look at him. Her brother covered his eyes. "Danti, look," Suyan said emptily. "What are you doing? Is this Hua Wu Ching? Did he defeat them all?" But Dao Zhen still covered his eyes. "I told you, Don, to look." Wu Ching asked anxiously, "Are you two okay?" The boy stammered, "I am okay." He softened. "You must have been very scared." The boy shook his head. "No. I come from the Marshall family." He ordered Elder Zhao, "Take the wounded and the two children back to the manor." "Yes, young master." The wounded were carried out. He turned to the last one. "Well then, you were sent by a spy from the Qinghua Trade Guild, weren't you?" He panicked. "You will really spare me," he barked sharply. "Danti, make me repeat myself." He confessed it was Fu Chuyan, head of the Qinghua Trade Guild. "She hired us through the Purple Forest gang." He asked, "Will you really spare me?" Wu Ching raised his sword and said, "If you want to live, go and tell her that." Explain clearly how Hua Wu Ching from the Fireflower body clan destroyed her own people. When people saw how Wu Ching walked down Blood Street, they whispered anxiously, calling him the madman of the Fireflower clan. His illness was getting worse. When they saw him covered in blood on the avenue, no one dared to mock or just walk past. So, Hua Wu Ching, who was once called the Mad Young Master or Maniac, since then people spoke differently and began to call him the Hidden Dragon Sixiang. As soon as she reached out to hug him, she was pushed away. She hurriedly asked, "Is the young master normal again? Is he okay?" He answered, "Yes." Then she asked, "Is everyone in the infirmary?" He nodded. Yes, not everyone was fine. The second young master and the young lady were taken to the infirmary to be revived. Wu Ching praised, "Good. Go and prepare the bath now." He replied, "Understood. I will do it." Under the quiet moon, Wu Ching sat in the bath, immersed in warm water. His face darkened, and he forced himself to calm his thoughts. The Marshall S. child should not have to endure this. But he did not want to show them the cruelty of the world. He wanted them to hear only honest words and see only good deeds. The next day at the pharmacy, voices rose in alarm. "What? The red burning heart method. Wu Hin replied, yes, exactly. Why did you flinch? Did I say something wrong? Putting that aside, Huan Feng asked, may I ask why you need that mental method? Wu Ching teased, fearing that I would tear it to pieces again. He was embarrassed. No, that's not the point. Wu Ching said sternly, do not start learning this secret manuscript now. From tomorrow I will personally teach both children. He remarked, I can see from your face that you don't believe me. He objected, no, not at all. Wu Ching sighed to calm him. Don't worry, Zhao Huanfeng will be fine. Yes, understood. After the conversation, he pulled out a stack of papers. It was a copy of the thinking method. Wu Ching grabbed it and left. I am going, rest. They bowed with deep respect. Young master, take care. After he left, Huan Feng sighed anxiously. Will everything be all right? Bo Shun reassured him. Don't worry, the young master showed powerful swordsmanship. It saved us and sped up our recovery. Huan Feng felt some relief. His recent madness had subsided. His body and mind had changed and almost fully recovered. The Heir'S method had probably worked. Could this method really accelerate his combat skills so rapidly? I've never heard of such a thing. Bo Shun also doubted such a sudden leap could only be due to fated Cu, a rare encounter. This is not a simple coincidence, probably an encounter with an extraordinary master. No other reason. Finally, it seems that the 17-year-old shadow pressing over the Fireflower body clan is beginning to retreat. At the training ground, Wu Qin taught the children the butterfly dance, or the resonance of the yellow bee. Su Yan blinked. Brother, what did you say? He explained more simply. When the enemy freezes at your feet, move lightly and gracefully, like a butterfly in the wind. I created and honed this basic technique in bloody battles. The children are simply delighted with it. Su Yan pondered. Strange, you have never fought in a real battle. Daojin gave a sign. Idiot. Don't say that out loud. Wu Qin cleared his throat. Enough theory now, and practice hit me with simple fists. Because the children just fought out of habit, without real technique or form. What are those two doing? How clumsy their movements are. Are they really descendants of the martial family, or just too young? Still, it is funny that they can't even maintain balance or control their bodies. The children, surprised, pulled their hands away from him. He pressed his head with his palm. Tired. I have a headache. Let us stop training today. The girl worried. Young master, are you okay? We didn't hit your head. He said you have more potential than I expected. First strengthen your bodies, then learn more complex techniques. And now go rest. See you tonight. His praise ignited enthusiasm in the children, and that night they could not sleep. But the children did not even suspect this. Wu Chen was still grumbling that it would not be easy. He laughed, thinking that the master had probably gone through many hardships. The student's guilt cut the clan's fighting vein. But I will restore its glory and revive the traditional martial arts of the Fireflower body clan. I will find that scoundrel with the cursed mark without a blade, the one-eyed demon god Zhen Tian, whom I could not defeat in my past life. He took a stance, ready to train. No matter what happens, I will kill him. He gave in to inertia, and each swing was stronger than the previous one. That afternoon, Wu Qin trained tirelessly and joyfully with the sword. Huang Feng, looking healthier, said, I am back. Masha was gripped by panic. Well done. And that's it? Do you understand how hard we worked to protect the second young master and the young lady? He sighed irritably. Who allowed you to act on your own? If I had been late even for a moment, you would already be lying in coffins. Say that again. And I will be the first to send you there. Understood? Bo Shun bowed. Forgive me, young sir. Huan Feng. Yes, young sir. At that moment, a strange voice sounded. He is much better now. I told you only I can cure the young sir. A few more sessions, and he will be completely recovered. It was Du Yongshu. Mashi was breathless. Isn't that him? Wu Qing boldly cut in. Who are you? This is not charity. Get out of here. Mashi rushed to intervene. Wait, sir. This is the Taoist who saved you. Mashi spoke humbly. Forgive me, Master of the Blade. The young master is not completely recovered yet. He coughed quietly several times. He had not finished when Wu Qin kicked Mashi in the side. Step back. He awkwardly forced a hospitable smile onto his face. Oh, sorry. I did not recognize you. After such a long journey, you must be very hungry. Taoist, please, come inside and rest. His hand slid over the shoulder. A few days ago, Mashi said that the Taoist boasted supposedly he is the heir of the Wudang line, and once treated the second young master, and the steward paid generously to invite him. Returning to the present, Wu Qing barely smiled and feigned warmth as he invited him inside. Yang Shu, considering himself a guest, entered quite naturally. But he had no idea how treacherous the person who brought him here was. Wu Qin changed his tone and asked, You are the heir of the Wudan line, right? He had no doubts, and answered calmly. Yes. I alone inherit the essence of the Wudan line, Baxian. He showed a deadly smile and sneered contemptuously. You are the one everyone talks about? How strange that Wudong has someone with such a big nose like Era because of this. He turned pale. Before he could finish speaking, Wu Chen barked, Hey, big-nosed, confess now, or I'll send you to the ancestors. He stubbornly clung to the false title and tried to explain something, but fell silent when Wu Qin drew his blade. If you are a disciple of Wudan, you must dodge a few simple sword strikes, he heard. And fear made him retreat several times. Wu Qin instantly lowered the sword down to test him. He was so scared that he wet himself and fell, and Mashi nearby could only stand and watch. Wu Qin suddenly snapped, Shut up and bring me a ladle of water. In a moment, a large ladle of water slapped and the water splashed down. It turned out Wu Qin was not ceremonious. He grabbed the ladle and poured it right on his back to sober him up. Yongshu shouted angrily, but Wu Qing immediately grabbed his fake beard. He pulled so hard that the veins on his arm bulged, and his eyes popped out of their sockets. It turned out that it was just a fake beard, bought at the market for 36 coins. Wu Chen sneered, using 502 glue from Troop de Bang holds well. That is just a trick. 4 people stood before Yongshu and demanded, How dare you deceive the Marshall family, old and still cunning? Masha whispered worriedly, and Wu Chen, thinking, said, Of course, we can just leave it like this. His face became demonic. He threatened to cut off limbs, and he panicked and began begging for mercy. Wu Qing softened his voice and joked, Who will pay if I kill you? I'll just cut off a few necessary parts. He trembled, begged to keep his body intact, and promised to return all the money he had extorted by fraud. Wu Qing nodded, but added count the fee for limbs and valuables too, and in panic agreed to everything. He smiled contentedly, and continued to demand ransom for limbs and valuables, which made him panic and give everything after bargaining. Wu Qing called the butler and asked how much the fraudster took. Boshan replied 50 taels of gold. Wu Chen sneered contemptuously, pathetic. At your age you are still so naive. Boshin awkwardly began to explain something, but Wu Chen sharply interrupted, Enough. Let's go. I don't want to hear this anymore. Wu Chen tensely said, Here, the starting price is 50 gold taels. He fell to his knees. I don't have that kind of money right now, unless I give it to Jin Yan. He interrupted there 2 hours. Lead the way. Han Feng followed, but shouted, Stop. Your hands are injured and you still ask for legs? What do you need them for? Help me clean up the corpses. Don T make up nonsense, stay obediently inside. This made him fall silent. He angrily left and the swindler stumbled behind, confused. Yes, yes. Bo Xin and Huan Feng stood behind, still stunned by Wu Chen's unpleasant behavior. Bo Xin thought to himself, Don't to worry, this man is no longer the young master we once knew. He muttered under his breath, Damn. I should have borrowed a fresh horse. How poor this clan is, that they don't even have a horse. When he approached, the man stammered, This is my carriage. Please sit down, sir. Wu Qin said with a sneer, Ah, you cheated for a decent sum. A rare 4-horse carriage for 50 gold taels, this makes perfect sense. The carriage was too pompous for their clan, shiny and lavish. He stammered. The skin was tightly wrapped. I travel a lot and sit in the carriage for hours. Wu Qin teased, So devoted to your work, why not do something useful? He bowed his head and said, One day I will do it, sir. He lay down and quietly said, I'll nap a little. Wake me when we arrive. The man obediently said, Yes, please rest. Then he quietly slipped outside while Wu Qin was still asleep. While he was sleeping, they pulled him outside and were about to deal with him. Wu Qin was so furious he almost went bald. Another gritted his teeth. Damn, another one. Thinking so, he raised his fist and muttered, Don to blame me. Suddenly the enemy had a third, involuntarily alert eye. Wu Qin parried with his blade and frowned. What is this? Not a bad greeting. The blade hit the big boss, and he instantly raised his hand to block the strike. The main boss was boiling with anger. The hidden dragon from Sishan lived up to its name. Wu Qin smiled mockingly. When did Jin Yan turn into an abandoned forest? He left. So, was I chosen as the target from the very beginning? I thought it was just some petty fraud. It turns out, it is serious. Just when boredom struck, Wu Chen suddenly ignited a wild power. Wu Chen instantly radiated an aura. I am bored too. Wu Chen feared no one. Your gaze is disgusting, like a devil from hell. How strong is this demonic aura? He sharply drew his blade, and you have a real arsenal of weapons. A powerful aura burst from him, proof of his strength. They saw the big boss pushed far back into an open patch of land. They shouted in rage. That scoundrel attacked only one person, save him. Blocking and thinking, damn, he rushes like an iron mace. In a moment, the big boss was shoved, he fell on his back. He kicked him right in the face and he rolled on the ground. They pretended to be frightened because the third brother was about to make his move. The advantage in strength pushed Wu Qin to target the weakest, the second brother. He sharply lowered his blade. The third brother hastily raised his sword to block the strike. The sword was too thin, and Wu Qin instantly split it in half. He chopped straight at the head. The man didn't have time to do anything. Almost killed. The third brother managed to tilt his head and dodge, but immediately after that, Wu Qin delivered a powerful kick right to his stomach. Watching them, he hesitated. Yes, this was demonic kung fu. Why had such arts appeared in the Central Plains? He sighed. He didn't want to kill these junior disciples practicing demonic arts. What else could he do? Yanshu cursed himself. He couldn't believe that the 4 demons of Cheongshan were so decisively defeated. The big boss admitted after a few moves, "We realized we couldn't match you." Wu Qin smirked. "Why drag it out? Enjoy your defeat." He nodded. "Fine, I'll spare you." But then he coldly added, "I will cripple your dantian and sever your meridians." He knelt down again and bowed. "We were only following orders, please. Do not destroy our path as martial arts masters." Wu Qing teased. "You still whine like a child at your age." He asked, "Who taught you martial arts?" The man froze and only muttered, "Huh? What do you mean?" He repeated, "Who is your master?" His demonic aura aroused even more suspicion. Few have such an aura on the Central Plains. "Who taught you demonic arts?" he confessed. "Even when he died, we never learned his real name." Wu Qing was irritated. A student who doesn't even know his teacher's name. The big boss was timid. He forbade us from looking for other students. He was still dissatisfied. "I understand. You should have trained calmly, not become bandits." The big boss turned pale and immediately objected. "Bandits? No, we just sometimes helped brothers with business." Wu Qing suspiciously asked, "Business? Don't you know what he was like and still helped?" And he stubbornly replied, "We thought saving people was right, wasn't it?" He was fed up enough. "Get out of here. Stop serving him. If I see you again, consider yourselves dead." They bowed in a row. "Thank you, sir," he said to Yangshu. "You must pay ransom for these guys with your life, and compensate for the loss of my energy and spirit." He blinked. "Psychic trauma? That counts too." Watching the carriage disappear, the big chief recalled his master's words. "We are slow and trusting. Choose comrades carefully. When you come across a person who is strong and honest, follow them and serve them." He smiled. "Good. My intentions align well with yours." On the road, the carriage suddenly stopped. Wu Qing thought in surprise. Why did it stop again? Suddenly they knelt before him again and shouted, "Older brother! We swear loyalty and dedicate ourselves to the clan of the body of the fiery flower. Accept us." Wu Qin curled his lip. "Were you beaten so badly that you lost your mind? Who is the older brother here?" They replied, "We are not even 30 yet. Have mercy on us, older brother." Wu Qing froze in surprise. "What? You are under 30? Incredible." It seemed the horses were about to charge, continuously roaring. Now 5 stubborn men clung tightly, incredibly insolent. Wu Qing still doubted seriously. He is 30. He looked even older than me. After a short pause, he dismissed it as if he hadn't asked. Den Shu had not yet recovered from the spectacle when Wu Qing instantly emptied him. On the side of Wu Qin. He could not comprehend how a demonic cultivator became a fighter in a declining orthodox clan. It was absurd. They say the teachers said that demonic cultivation is a way of life, and who you are, not a sect. Wu Qin wondered, why would a righteous clan accept demonic practitioners? Isn't that a disgrace? Others chirped. Those who spoke fell silent. Their mouths were bound, skulls smashed, and teeth knocked out. 4 looked about 20, but were not at all what they seemed. He quietly sneered. "You burst in with such arrogance, you'll get a lesson like those I once valued," and coldly snorted, "If you want to serve another clan, lay down your life for every one of my orders. There is no freedom. Submit for the honor of the clan like a dog." They answered in unison. "Clearly we give all decisions to the big brother." He turned pale. "All right, do as you wish. From now on, you are warriors of the Fireflower clan." They rejoiced and shouted, "Thank you, elder brother." He frowned. "Don to call me elder brother, call me young master." And they replied, "Yes, young master." Wu Qin peeked out and said in surprise, "So this is your estate?" Yangshu, "Yes, please come in." About 20-year-old boys signaled to open the gates, imitating Wu Qin's manner. The servant asked, "What's going on here?" Yangshu sharply waved his hand. Danti asked, "Quickly prepare food in the annex." Wu Qin waved off. "Not yet. First show me the treasury." He obeyed. "Yes, this way." Wu Qin thought, "So you live easily on silver stolen from the world." Suddenly, halfway along the road, someone appeared and asked, "What happened, brother? Something's wrong?" This man was Bisutan. Yunshu quickly whispered, "Brother T, it is nothing. Come in." The other, with suspicion in his voice, asked, "What are you hiding? Tell me, who are these people?" Wu Qin interrupted, "I told you, come inside. What do metal and some strange things have to do with this? By their clothes, it is clear they are guests of the swindler. Guests do not interfere in the affairs of the estate." He hurriedly rushed and blocked Wu Qin's way. "You brat, your tongue is a real disgrace." Seeing this, the boss was already about to cause trouble, but Yun Shu instantly stopped him, shouting that they were his guests, and it was just a misunderstanding. He awkwardly spoke, introducing them. "These are 4 demons of Chungxiang, and a young master of the Fireflower clan." Suten smiled lightly. "Here he is, the furious young lord raging over the Fireflower. Says he is orthodox, but scares ordinary people interesting." Wu Qin did not want to argue, smiling. He asked him to step aside, but that man still mocked, insisting that orthodox sects engage in demonic arts, and mocked their ancestors. Seeing the frightened Yangshu, he whispered reassuringly that Bisutan was nearby. He grabbed a weapon and wildly wanted to cut off that guy's head just for fun. He stood waiting for orders, but Wu Qin simply said to retreat, let him handle it himself. He stood before Suten, and with a mocking smile said, "Even a dog knows its master." He teasingly beckoned, "Come here, good dog." He lunged at Wu Qin, and Wu Qin raised his blade to parry. He remarked, "Quickly, but your inner strength is too weak." Before he could make another move, Wu Qin suddenly sharply changed direction. Seeing the blade near his throat, the man was forced to lean back to dodge. He had not yet recovered when Wu Qin began pressing him with continuous attacks. The spectators whispered, "Just a little more, and that's it." Once he is pressured, escaping is difficult. They said Wu Qin's blade was harder than an iron mace. Sooner or later both the sword and his head would crack. As predicted, Suten's sword cracked in half. The strike dealt heavy damage, and the man staggered to the side. Wu Qing turned around and said to the second brother, "Throw me the iron mace." Grabbing the club, he glared fiercely at the man, and the resentment towards his ancestor flared up again in his memory. He said coldly, "Fine. Let your cries echo near the grave of your ancestors." He had not yet finished when Wu Chen struck him fiercely, and the assistants instantly broke into a sweat. Wu Qing beat him like a madman despite the cries about broken bones. He coldly said, "Soon you will lie in the same grave. A few broken bones mean nothing." He laughed while beating him. They froze silently. He really knew how to deal with people. The third brother looked worried and asked, "Will he stop breathing now, right?" Yangshu rushed forward to stop him, begging, "Young master, spare him. I will redeem him." Wu Chen asked, "Really?" He insisted he has connections with the demon that pierces the sky and is considered righteous, and in my estate he cannot die. He, shocked, whispered, "How much do you need? I will pay. Please spare him." Wu Qing smiled and asked, "Oh? I thought you were vainly hoping on this man." He smiled. "You should have said so earlier." The man looked scared and thought, "This one is truly crazy." When the door closed, he looked back and asked, "All right, it seems you have gathered quite a lot?" Wu Qin looked around the hall with satisfaction. "All right, let us start the count. 4 men behind you, 500 taels each." Yan Shu froze in surprise. He said he would take them as warriors. "How did it come to this?" He continued. "Next. Your limbs 200 taels, your life 300. And finally added, for your talkative brother 1,000 taels, and for the spirit and strength I lost today another 3,000. He issued a challenge. "Let us settle this cleanly, hand over all valuables now." "Anyone against?" Yangshu gritted his teeth and shouted, "Of course not. This one is worse than mountain bandits." He reminded them not to miss anything. They worked and responded, "Yes, young master." He looked intently at the wall and couldn't understand what kind of screen is this. It emits a strange aura. Wu Qin became increasingly confused in his thoughts. Could this be an illusion? Yan Xiao shyly asked, "Young master, do you like the screen?" Wu Qin carefully examined the screen. It seemed strange to him, but he remained silent and only shook his head. As he didn't like it much, the man continued. "This screen was made by Master Jiang Sushun. You have sharp eyesight, young master." He suggested, "The young master's room is empty. Take it if you want." He agreed. "All right, I'll take it." The man thought to himself, "This boy is greedy." Soon the carriage outside was piled with gold and silver. Wu Qin asked, "You don't need this carriage anymore, right?" "I'll take it." Yangshu bowed his head and respectfully replied, "Of course it is a great honor for us that the young master uses it." Wu Qin shouted, "All right, let's go." As soon as he finished, the wheels immediately started moving. From afar he bowed and shouted farewell, and ahead, leading the way, Wu Qin loudly exclaimed, "Live well, see you again." Seeing those treasures, Yangshu trembled and shouted, "See, you've already grabbed enough. Are you even human anymore?" His eyes filled with tears and he whispered, How can the sky be so cruel? What did I do to deserve this madman? Masha froze and shouted, "Wait, what is going on here?" He opened his mouth, looked, and asked, "What happened?" Masha asked in surprise, "Young master, where did this money come from? Did someone die because of it?" Wu Qin calmly explained, "No. You said we lacked funds, so I got them." He asked Masha, "How old do you think they are?" Judging by their build, these were not ordinary men. He guessed, "Look closely, they are all over 40. This news will definitely interest them." Then he asked, "Where are the chief steward Du and Elder Zhao? I didn't see them when I came." Ma Shi said, "Oh, important guests have arrived. They are in the front hall and asked to be taken to the young master." He became alert. More guests? Or did scammers come to take the money? But he quickly pulled himself together. No, dawn to fear them, quickly. Wu Qin fluttered with anger. What kind of tricks are these old men pulling again? When he entered, everyone immediately bowed in unison. The young master had arrived. He stood up and introduced young master. "These are 3 merchants who helped the Fireflower clan in difficult times." Another introduced himself. "I heard the hidden dragon has awakened. The rumors turned out to be true. I am Bang Guan Wu from the Yan Merchants Guild." Another respectfully said, "I am Dong Guan Yu, leader of the Boundless Trade Alliance." "I am glad to see the young master safe," added Dutan. "Long time no see. I am Hong Dutan, head of the Golden Treasury." He responded with a salute. No need for such formality. He introduced himself and said, "I am Hua Qin. Thank you all for coming." Then he poured tea and began, "Well then." He sharply asked, "You 3 came to demand debts from the Fireflower clan, didn't you?" Bong Wan Wu denied this. "No, we are not forcing debt repayment. We only came to greet the young master. Sorry if we disturbed you." Wu Qin said calmly, "Thank the merchant for the help. But the debts need to be clarified. I have just restored my spirit and do not yet know the whole situation. So please forgive my shortcomings." He continued, "I want to know the total debt the Fireflower clan has." Bo Shin interrupted. "Young master, before talking about repayment, we need to state exact figures." Dong Guanyu said, "The figures must be accurate, young master." He calmed down and added, "All right. Though unpleasant, let them state the amounts." They told in turn 5,300 stories for the Guild of Merchants Yan, 3,200 stories for the Golden Treasury, 1,100 stories for the Alliance of Boundless Trade. He counted a total of 2,400 tales. Someone spoke and Boshin slammed the table. "Now it is clear that the Qinhua Merchants Guild has long oppressed us." He calmly asked, "What does the Qinhua Merchant Guild want?" Bang Guangwu said, "They want the right to collect debts that your families owe us. This will harm you, so we firmly refuse." Dong Guanyu continued after the clash. The Qinhua Merchants Guild threw huge resources to crush competitors and monopolize supplies, breaking ties with other trade unions. They even shamelessly poached branch leaders to their side. Huang Feng listened anxiously, never imagining it was so serious. He added, shamefully admitting, "But we no longer have the strength to resist." Guan Yu said before granting them the right to collect debts, "At least warn the young master." Wu Qing sincerely thanked them. "We are deeply grateful for your concern, and the thought of what you had to endure weighs heavily on my heart." He said sadly, "Those who held on to the Fireflower clan at its peak have left only Elder Zhao and Chief Administrator Du remain." He sincerely thanked that all 3 stayed to protect the family. He slammed the table. "I know little about literacy, but one thing I know well, a debt of gratitude must be fully repaid." He promised, "I will immediately repay all the debts of the Fireflower clan to you." Everyone, full of surprise, asked, "Is this really possible?" Wu Qin resolutely swore, "I will return every percent and repay every favor. I will free your merchant associations from the oppression of the Qinghua Guild." "Young Master Hua, are you really going to use force to help us?" Wu Qin answered instantly, "Of course." Bo Shin flinched. "Young Master Hua," he warned anxiously. "What are you saying? Do you know who stands behind them?" Bo Shin emphasized, "It is the Kongdong sect, one of the most powerful fighting factions." Wu Qin did not flinch. "So those old ones are pulling the strings?" He called back young Master Hua. Guan Yu interrupted. "Chief Steward do it. Don't worry." He reassured, "If we write off the debt, they will lose the reason to bother us. That is a great favor in itself. We will not dare to directly challenge the Kongdong sect." Everyone smiled. "Thank you for your words, young master. We feel much lighter at heart." They said goodbye. "We also say goodbye. May your home prosper, and may the road be safe." He watched with admiration as they departed. The Qinghua Merchants Guild is truly formidable. Wu Qin ordered Du, Chief Administrator, gather all intelligence on those rats, their money, territories, goods, and contact the Kongdong sect, and Bo Qin set off. young Master Hua? He asked in alarm. Wait, are you serious? Wu Qin stressed. I am not joking. Grievances, blood deaths or favors must be clarified. Wu Qin angrily said, you know what they have done. If we let this pass now, next time they will aim straight for our throat. Now either we risk everything, or we lose everything. He said for over 10 years they helped us, and in return like this now they will no longer help us. Wu Qin smiled. So we need to repay properly at least once. They will brush off my words as the ravings of a madman. He gazed into the distance. Let fate take its course. At that moment someone shouted, Young Master Hua, the task is completed. He replied, Good, gather here. Wu Qin reminded, Present them properly, they are the elder and the chief administrator. Both shuddered. Young Master Hua, yes, it is them, he announced. From today they are combat warriors joining the clan of the Fire Flower. They responded with deep respect. 4 demons of Chongshan, have mercy on them. Wu Qin indicated. Do not be surprised yet. What comes next will shock you even more. All of them. He continued. They are all younger than me. They froze in shock. What? They stood still. Incredible. It can be. 4 demons of Chongshan went to look for food, and another froze, stunned by our presence. They froze and exclaimed, Young Master Hua, don't you know about the reputation of the 4 demons of Chongshan? Why did you accept them into the clan without consulting us? Wu Qin coldly asked Bo Xin. And when you were going to secretly take my 2 junior disciples, did you ask me about it? Bo Xin stammered and whispered. About that. He said coldly, if I nod, they will stay. If not, they will leave. I will lead the clan. Wu Qin wanted to buy livestock, but Ma Shi hesitated because they had no money. Ma Shi reminded that just over 10,000 taels of silver had gone to pay off debts. Bo Xin exclaimed that swindler hid quite a lot. Huang Feng doubted. Wu Qin replied, I didn't kill him. I just took back what was mine. And what is it? Wu Qin asked sincerely. They say it is supposedly a masterpiece by Zhang Sushan, and everyone froze in surprise. He said, even if they sell it cheaply for 90 taels, I will take it. Bo Xin nodded. It really looks genuine. Wu Qin asked, will this be enough for meat? He replied, more than enough. Then he barked, then go and buy it now. Wu Qin said, you are probably wondering why I called you at dawn. He said after recent events, you all need special training. He insisted the foundation of swordsmanship is the body. A weak body makes training pointless. He said, under your feet lie sacks of rice weighing 144 jin each, they will be your training partners. He clearly explained this is not for food. Whoever steals it will not blame me. He glared angrily. There is always someone trying to steal rice. How annoying that is. Daojin asked why the sacks are so small. Suhyun replied no more than 15 jin each. Baoren asked, so what are we supposed to do with these sacks? They both panicked. Young Master Hua, this will have to be carried by 2. He hissed coldly. Shut up and lift them, or I will beat you until nothing remains of your armor. Wu Qin threatened, my sword may be dull and not cut cleanly, but with 1 strike I will shatter your bones. He reminded, choose either carry a sack of rice, or come up here and fight me. 4 men reluctantly threw sacks of rice over their shoulders. Wu Qin stepped forward. Form, are you mocking me? He pressed close to their faces. What a cowardly tactic, each of you has 3 sacks. He shouted at the top of his voice, whoever disagrees come out and fight me here. The 4 Ma gritted their teeth and shouted, endure. Everyone shuddered and strained with all their might to support the sacks of rice. Bo Xin was stunned. What is this? Asked Huang Feng. Young Master Hua, what will you do to us? He praised. Good, as soon as you decide to carry this, you will manage. He reminded them, I can do this. Stop thinking you are weak. Wu Qing urged, keep going. Failure means death. What's impossible here? He almost screamed madly. Start doing 200 repetitions, sit down and stand up. Follow me. There was no choice left, they shouted in unison. Tighten your abs, lift your little snakes, and do it again unless you really want to die. At that moment the elder brother, drenched in sweat, felt, what is this sensation? As if the whole body is falling apart from feet to head. No. If I can't endure this, the young master might beat me to death. Then he clenched his muscles and deliberately tensed up like a maniac bodybuilder, shouting as if afraid that Wu Qin would turn him into mint candies. At the same time, Huang Feng went outside, bewildered by what he saw. What kind of training is this? Just watching is already exhausting. Can these fragile bodies endure this? He still couldn't believe his eyes. The young master of the Yanghuo clan is now acting like a child scaring an ogre. You call yourselves warriors. But you spent everything on the Yanghuo clan's food, right? And now you whine about this ordinary training? Such people do not deserve mercy. Every coward pretending to be weak will die here. His face turned pale. He could neither eat nor rest, only counted to 200. Wu Qin said mockingly, pathetic. We've only been warming up all day, and with such endurance you still dare to dream of martial arts? But in a moment he added a line that made everyone grimace. Instead, from now on, you will become one with those rice bags. Eat with them, relieve yourself with them, carry them during training, and even sleep with them. You will always carry a rice bag. Wu Qin asked and answered himself. And for how long? He called, "Hey, older brother," and he immediately responded yes. Wu Qin ordered, "Bring ropes and tie everyone up. Whoever removes the ropes will lose part of their life. Remember this." Even the older brother's nostrils externally contracted, and he quietly cried inside, "I have never met that man. But today, I really want my mother." In a moment he said to Masha, "From now on, make sure the children get beef at every meal." The boy blinked and replied, "Understood. Shall I prepare a bath for you?" He shook his head. "No, I'll say later." After that, Wu Chen entered the room and coldly closed the door, because he himself was exhausted after training with them, but never complained even once. At the banquet, everyone had to carry those bags of rice on their backs. Even the children were no exception. Their hands trembled, and their legs were completely exhausted. None of them even knew how to hold chopsticks, let alone put food in their mouths. Meanwhile, the second brother became emaciated, staring at his hands that trembled like those of an old man. He looked back at the fourth brother and blurted out, "Isn't it strange? I train my legs, but my hands tremble." The fourth brother frowned and replied, "Do you feel it too? I noticed it earlier, and it's somehow strange. Even when I trained with our master, this never happened. It's the same here." This made the third brother break out in a cold sweat and want to give up. The next day, torment. No, the training continued. "Why aren't you pressing properly? You still have 120 left. Focus. Do you hear me? What is this? They even opened their mouths wide. Do they really do that? What kind of monsters are these?" And again the next day, Wu Chen made them squat while carrying bags of rice. "You will become ducks. Repeat after me, quack, quack." Surprisingly, they obeyed. The quacking aroused pity in passers-by. How humiliating. The third brother quacked the loudest and thought to himself, "What kind of nonsense is this? Move faster, do you want to train all day? Those who are slower will be tied with another bag." Their faces showed they desperately needed the toilet. The children did not give up and followed Wu Qin to training. 50. He looked around with interest. These children are doing better than expected. A ruthless idea flashed through his mind. Should he raise the difficulty a bit? The elder brother Raisak, with a rope tied to his shoulders, looked puzzled. "Here? Are you sure, young master?" He smiled sinisterly. "Of course you must be hot." It was even 1,000 times bigger than Mrs. Tan's instant noodle pot. But Suoyun was delighted. A waterfall? That must be incredible. And Daojen was a little worried about his native person Suoyun. The girl suddenly realized what about him. "It seems he can't swim at all," Daojen whispered to her Suohyun. "He says this is training. But isn't it absurd?" And Suohyun wondered, should she tell him that he can't swim? At that moment Bai Xin and Huang Feng appeared. "Young master, this is impossible. The current is too strong. This place is famous for taking lives. It is dangerous even if you carry nothing." Wu Qing, bored, didn't even bother to answer. "Come on, you old folks worry too much. Don't worry. I checked everything myself," Bai Xin stammered. "Sir, since when have you been training like this?" Wu Qing was silent, instead addressing the others. "Hey, all of you, will you swim across the river or fight me? Choose wisely." Then Wu Qing quickly jumped down and while the others hesitated shouted, "I'll go first, young master." The second brother trembled and asked Elder, "What should we do?" "Gente has already gone ahead," and the elder, gritting his teeth, replied, "I know crossing the river has a better chance of survival than fighting the young master. I will go too." So the elder brother and the second brother decided to jump. Then everyone rushed there and this confused Huan Feng. Meanwhile, only the third brother and one more remained on the shore. What a horror. The second brother urged the man ahead of him if you can to step aside. Suo Yan happily followed and reassured Don to worry, your brother want to beat you to death, then added, "I'll go first," which made Dao Zhen confused. "Wait." The boy calmed himself. "I could never tell him this. I am a warrior of the Yanghuo clan." He used the momentum, jumped high, and landed flawlessly. It is a trifle. This shocked Huan Feng. Young Master Dao Jin. Wu Qing moved ahead and threatened the younger ones. "If you fall, you will really die. Move your arms and legs. Don't stop." At the same time, Dao Jin slowly surfaced and gasped for air convulsively. He encouraged himself, "I can do it, I can do it." But in a moment, the great panic could no longer hold and subsided.